Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie. Thanks for being here while I geek over gear. And this is the Nidecker Instinct Series Alpha. And next to it is the Alpha APX, kind of their plus model. And I rode this in a wide variety of conditions, everything from Mount Hood summer snow, didn't look good, but sure was. And then a wide variety of winter conditions, everything from some decent wet powder to some good groomers to some messy but fun groomers to some good spring snow to some hard snow and a little bit of everything in between. I primarily rode this with Union Atlas and Burton Kendos, but I did get on this with the K-On Plus and the Nidecker Supermatic. And to give you a short summary, this is a slightly tapered, kind of directional, but very good daily driver with a little early rise in the nose and some spoon tech in the nose to make the float maybe a touch better, but the turning experience in powder and softer snow definitely better. And it has a very poppy, very unique, playful, fun, all mountain experience. Not very easy to butter off that spoon nose, but overall it's a great daily driver that kind of sits in that world that's kind of like right in between the border of being more of a directional free ride board and being an all mountain board. I think it's more on the all mountain side, but overall it's a very good daily driver. And when paired up with the Beta for powder, you have a great 1-2 punch if that's what you're into quiver wise. And in comparison to the Alpha APX next to it, it's a little better in uneven snow. Not quite as poppy, but still very poppy. And when it comes to sizing, these 58s felt pretty good for me. They worked perfect with my boot size. I felt like they worked great with a 9-ish type of boot. I'm about 185 to 190 pounds, and I feel like that's a little too much for this board. I felt like in some uneven conditions, it bucked and bounced a little more than I'd like it to, but it was way better than the APX for me. I think this likes a little bit lighter rider than me. Maybe, 15 to 30 pounds lighter would be like the perfect fit for this board, but I still had a good time on it, and I still felt like it fit me well, especially if you want something that's easy to bend and flex and play around with. So when it comes to shape, this is tapered and directional, and it doesn't really feel that tapered and directional. It's only 4 mil of taper, and it doesn't really feel like most traditional freeride boards in the sense that you feel that taper in the tail a lot. I really didn't feel it that way. And then when you look at the camber profile, it's a good amount of camber going well past the bindings and almost to the tail, and then a little bit of early rise going into spoon nose. And it seems like the spoon starts maybe at about the same time or before the early rise, because I could feel that on snow. And the way I had to weight my feet with this was center back to back, and I felt like that was the best way to ride this. But as I rode it more, I got more and more used to that spoon nose, and it started washing less and less, especially at first when I would try to drive it off the front foot. I could feel the nose kind of wash out a little bit, but over time I got really used to it and learned how to weight the board without engaging that spoon nose on groomers and harder snow. And it was fun either direction, but that spoon nose was super fun in powder. So pretty easy board to skid a turn for most people. I'd say competent, intermediate, and up. And overall, it has a pretty stable feel, but not totally like those hybrid Cambers that have the spoon that starts after. Or, maybe it starts at the same time, but all I know is I could feel that spoon nose. So mostly stable, and it tracked well. And when it comes to edge hold, I felt like there was good grip here, but not amazing. More than you would think for that spoon nose kind of feel. But overall, I thought it gripped well. The combination of edge hold and camber profile along with shape gives a very consistent personality in all conditions. Now let's talk flex here. You can see this has a nice medium flex. It's definitely soft in the nose, a little stiffer in the tail, but again, overall, from flex from nose and flex from tail, you can see it's got a very easy flex and decent pop. Now, if you compare that to the Alpha APX, it's got a little stiffer, poppier flex and there's just a little more energy back from this board than there is with the regular Alpha. Now, both are difficult to butter off the nose because of that spoon nose. It's very hard to get set. It just keeps sliding one way or the other. There isn't like a middle point like with the thruster where it's a little easier to butter. But overall, it's soft, playful. You can butter off the tail pretty easy, and it's got really good pop. It really springs on an ollie. Of course, the Alpha APX has more pop, but the Alpha is very close pop-wise. Both are very easy to access, but the Alpha, what I like better about it is in that micro bumpy kind of uneven snow, the Alpha does better. I took one run on some spring conditions that were hard and micro bumpy in places, downright uneven in others, and good in other places. And I went with the APX first, then took the Alpha second, so the conditions were getting worse when I got out on the Alpha, and it was much better on doing the exact same run almost. I felt the Alpha hold its edge and handle that uneven snow a lot better, where the APX bucked and bounced me around. But in clean, pristine, good snow, I was having so much more fun on the APX. So I think it comes down to weight and the conditions you ride to which board you might want to buy. Now, when it comes to speed though, neither of these are bombers. I feel like you want to take out the Beta if you're going to do that. That's a lot of fun. That thing can just bomb. It's so much more damp. It's so much better at speed. But both these boards have pretty good base glide. They were both waxed before I got them. Thank you, Nidecker. That was above and beyond. And I think I felt a little, just a touch better glide with the APX than the regular Alpha, but they both had pretty good glide, especially in those powder days where you sometimes lose your speed and need to keep your speed to get out back to the groomers from a tree line or something like that on a traverse. And this did a pretty good job. Not amazing, but very good. Now, when it comes to turning, this is a pretty fun, balanced side cut that likes to turn, but doesn't feel like it's an ultra circle carver or an ultra across the groomer carver, but whatever you wanted to do, this could do. Everything from a circle carve to a little bit of a down the line kind of drivey turn. Just nothing great on either side, but just very balanced and very fun and good pop and spring out of each turn. So when I really laid into it, it's a little softer. It didn't have that powerful drive like the Beta, but it felt good either way. I felt like I could just carve a turn, throw it around, switch, play that way, butter back around and carve again. So it had a little bit more of that like mountain freestyle to all mountain kind of personality underfoot when you're turning and carving, and that's really fun. And when it comes to powder, there's a decent setback on board, but it's not anywhere close to the Beta. The Beta's just on another level up there with some like dedicated powder boards almost, just a little bit below that. Where this is great for an all mountain board, but I have been on a lot of other freeride boards that have better directional float. But still, for a one board quiver, you can set this back, get good directional float, and that spoon nose, while it doesn't really give you better float, it really enhances the turning experience in powder. And I just love a spoon nose in powder, where sometimes it got a little washy on groomers. It came alive in powder and just turned super well. And I love that feeling. Both of these boards were super fun in powder. I'd take a run in powder on the Alpha, then I'd get the Alpha APX and take another run, same run, and you could just feel the Alpha APX just be a little more jump friendly and untracked clean powder, but you could feel the regular Alpha do a lot better when you had to get through some messy stuff to get a couple turns. So overall, both just have good directional float for this kind of shape. Very doable switch. You can hit some kickers with this. You can play around. It has a mountain freestyle personality flex-wise, so that's kind of fun. You can play around in the park if you want to. Didn't ride pipe with this, but I think it would be okay. Not great because of that, washy nose. But overall, I think the Alpha is a very fun board. It really comes down to your weight, the conditions you ride, and what you're more into. If you're like me and you lean a little more on the regular version because you like a damper board that can handle all conditions, you'll probably like the Alpha. But if you like a little bit more dynamic flex at the expense of shock absorption in uneven conditions. Then you have the APX and you'll get a nice poppy feel out of it.